In the land where the earth kissed the sky and the mountains stood as timeless sentinels, there was a village named Zawadi. Zawadi lay in the valley of Mount Amani, a place where the golden sun bathed the fields in light by day, and the stars painted the heavens by night. The village was blessed with fertile soil, lush vegetation, and thriving life, and the people of Zawadi lived in peaceful harmony with nature. However, while the village appeared prosperous, it was bound by age-old traditions that governed every aspect of life, leaving little room for love to blossom freely. Amani was the daughter of the village chief, Mazi Jabari. She was a young woman of striking beauty, with radiant skin the color of cocoa and eyes that sparkled like the morning dew. Her hair, thick and braided, cascaded down her back like the flowing rivers that surrounded Zawadi. But Amani's beauty was not merely skin deep. Her heart was kind, her words gentle, and her wisdom far beyond her years. She was the pride of her father and the village, and many suitors had come forward hoping to win her hand in marriage. Yet, Amani was burdened with a future that had already been written for her. Tradition dictated that she would marry a man chosen by her father, one who would strengthen alliances and ensure prosperity for the village. Though she respected her father's wishes, Amani felt trapped by the expectations of her family and her role as the chief's daughter. In another part of the village, far from the grand huts of the wealthy and powerful, lived Kato. He was a humble farmer, toiling from dawn to dusk on his family's land. Kato's skin was bronzed by the sun, his hands calloused from years of hard labor, and his quiet demeanor masked a heart full of dreams and longing. He was known for his strength and generosity, often helping his neighbors without expecting anything in return. But it was his soul, free-spirited and yearning for something greater, that set him apart. Kato's life had been simple, growing crops, tending to livestock, and providing for his family. He had never imagined that his heart would be ensnared by someone so far beyond his reach. Yet, from the moment he saw Amani, he knew that she was the one his heart desired. Though their lives were worlds apart, fate seemed determined to bring Amani and Kato together. One evening, when the sun had dipped below the horizon and the sky was painted in hues of purple and orange, Amani found herself wandering along the edge of the village, seeking solace from the burdens that weighed heavily on her. The air was still, and the scent of jasmine hung in the breeze. She walked without purpose, her feet guiding her away from the village and toward the vast fields that stretched out before the mountains. It was here, in the quiet of the twilight, that she first heard the sound of music, soft and melodic, carried on the wind like a secret whisper. Intrigued, Amani followed the sound, her heart beating in time with the rhythm. As she drew closer, she saw the figure of a man sitting beneath the shade of a great Baobab tree, playing a flute with a skill and passion that left her breathless. The music was hauntingly beautiful, filled with longing and hope, and it spoke to her in ways that words never could. She stood at a distance, watching the man as he played, her heart stirred by the emotions the melody invoked. The man, of course, was Kato. When the music finally ceased, Kato looked up and saw Amani standing before him, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the setting sun. For a moment, time seemed to stop, and they gazed at one another in silence, each recognizing something in the other. A kindred spirit, a shared yearning. Kato quickly rose to his feet, his heart pounding with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Never in his wildest dreams had he imagined that Amani, the chief's daughter, would stand before him, drawn by the music of his flute. "I didn't mean to intrude," Amani said softly, her voice like the breeze that stirred the leaves around them. "Your music, it's beautiful." Kato, still stunned by her presence, managed a humble bow. "It is an honor that you find it so," he replied, his voice steady but filled with reverence. "I often come here to play when the day's work is done. It brings me peace." Amani smiled, though there was a trace of sadness in her eyes. "Peace is something I rarely find," she admitted. "The expectations of my life leave little room for it." But tonight, your music has given me a moment of escape, and for that I thank you." Kato's heart ached at her words. He had always seen Amani as someone untouchable, a woman destined for greatness. But now, standing before her, he saw her as someone who carried burdens just as he did, someone who longed for freedom. "We all deserve peace," Kato said quietly, "even those who carry the weight of a village on their shoulders." From that night on, Amani and Kato's lives became intertwined in ways neither of them had expected. They met in secret beneath the ancient Baobab tree, sharing moments of quiet conversation, music, and laughter. In the shadow of the great tree, they were free from the constraints of the village, free to be themselves without fear of judgment. Amani found solace in Kato's simplicity, his wisdom, and his unwavering strength. Kato, in turn, was captivated by Amani's intelligence, her compassion, and the fire that burned in her heart, despite the path laid out for her. But as their love blossomed, so did the dangers that surrounded them. Amani's father, Mzee Jabari, had already made arrangements for her to marry Malik, the son of a wealthy merchant from a neighboring village. Malik was ambitious, his family powerful, and their union would ensure a prosperous future for Zawadi. Though Malik was kind and respectful, Amani felt no connection to him. Her heart belonged to Kato, but the laws of the village forbade such a union. Tradition dictated that she marry for duty, not love, and defying her father's wishes would bring great dishonor to her family. Amani's secret meetings with Kato continued, but the weight of their forbidden love grew heavier with each passing day. They knew they could not continue like this forever. One night, under the light of a full moon, Amani confessed her fears to Kato as they sat together beneath the Baobab tree. "I cannot marry Malik," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "My heart belongs to you, Kato. But if I defy my father, I will bring shame to my family. I don't know what to do." Kato took her hands in his heart aching at the pain in her voice. "We could leave," he suggested, though the thought filled him with both hope and fear. "We could go far from here, to a place where no one knows us, where we could live freely and love without fear of tradition or duty." Amani's eyes filled with tears as she considered his words. Leaving Zawadi would mean turning her back on everything she had ever known, her family, her friends, her village. But staying would mean sacrificing her happiness, her love, and her future with Kato. "I love you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But how can I abandon my family, my people?" Kato gently wiped away her tears, his heart breaking for her. "Sometimes love requires sacrifice," he said softly. "But I will not ask you to choose between me and your family. I only ask that you follow your heart, whatever path it may lead you down." For days, Amani wrestled with her decision. She loved Kato with every fiber of her being, but the thought of defying her father and the village weighed heavily on her soul. She knew that choosing Kato would mean abandoning the life she had been raised to live. But she also knew that staying would mean losing the one person who truly understood her, who loved her for who she was, not for what she represented. Finally, on the night of the new moon, Amani made her choice. She met Kato beneath the Baobab tree, the weight of her decision pressing heavily on her chest. "We will leave," she said, her voice steady but filled with sorrow. "I cannot live a life without love, without you. We will go far from here and build a life of our own." Kato's heart soared at her words, but he knew the gravity of the decision she had made. "Are you certain?" he asked gently. "Once we leave, there is no going back." Amani nodded, her eyes filled with both resolve and fear. "I am certain," she whispered. "We will find our own path together." And so, under the cover of darkness, Amani and Kato fled the village of Zawadi, leaving behind the world they had known for a future filled with uncertainty. They traveled through dense forests and across wide rivers, seeking a place where they could live freely without fear of tradition or duty. After many days of travel, they came upon a small valley at the foot of a mountain, a place untouched by the outside world. There, they built a small home and began their new life together. In their new home, Amani and Kato found the peace they had longed for. They worked the land together, grew their own food, and lived in harmony with nature. Their love, once forbidden and secret, now flourished in the open air, and they were free to be themselves, free to love without fear. As time passed, they were blessed with a son, whom they named Baraka, meaning blessing. Their family grew, and with it, their happiness. Back in Zawadi, the villagers whispered of Amani's disappearance, of how the chief's daughter had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a life of privilege and duty. Mizi Jabari was heartbroken, but he understood that his daughter had followed her heart, choosing love over duty. Though he missed her dearly, he respected her decision and prayed that she had found the happiness she sought. As the years passed, the tale of Amani and Kato became a story told around the fires of Zawadi, passed down from one generation to the next. It became a story of love and sacrifice, of defying tradition to follow one's heart. The villagers came to understand that love was a force that could not be bound by rules or customs, a force that could transcend all barriers. And so Amani and Kato's love story endured through the ages, a reminder that true love is worth any sacrifice, that it is a vow made not just under the light of the moon, but in the deepest corners of the heart, where it shines brightest. Their story became part of the fabric of Zawadi, woven into the history of the village, a tale of love that had defied the odds and found its way to a place where it could flourish, free from the constraints of the world.